Welcome to a brand new episode of Beyond Innovation, where we are finding the latest in technology and innovation from around the world that is changing the way we live and do business. Ahead on the show, we're going to find out how the world's most powerful space telescope is looking for life on other planets. Plus, a 3D printed alternative meat that looks and they say tastes like the real thing. But first, Anthony heads to the United Kingdom to talk to a startup that's turning your bedroom into a sleep lab with a single sensor.
Sleep apnea is a condition that affects nearly 1 billion people worldwide. It increases your blood pressure, which often leads to a heart attack, stroke, or issues with type 2 diabetes. Diagnostic bottlenecks have led to the majority of people not having a timely diagnosis. The result is billions of dollars being spent on avoidable medical costs. Acurable has a solution that uses sounds you make as you sleep, as well as respiratory and cardiac disease biomarkers, to diagnose and monitor your condition. Esther, how is Acurable helping people have a better night's rest?
Acurable basically aims to help to improve the diagnosis and management of chronic health conditions. Specifically, our first product targets the diagnosis of a disease called obstructive sleep apnea, OSA. Now, what happens is that people with OSA stop breathing many times. In some cases, people are told by their partners that they have noticed that they stop breathing in the middle of the night. They go to the doctor, and the doctor generally have to refer them to a sleep clinic. And in the sleep clinic, they sleep completely attached to cables. It's really uncomfortable. And then after that night, in which in many cases actually they can't sleep or they've got a very unnatural sleep, an expert physician has to interpret every 10 seconds of signals produced by those sensors. Now, as you can imagine, that is a very time-consuming process for physicians. Some other cases, the alternative is that people are being sent home with a subset of those sensors that they have to be trained to put on themselves, and the doctors still need to spend time interpreting the signals. What we do is that with our device, people can just be sent the device. There is no need of training at all because our app, our assistant, does it for them. And people just put the device on the neck. They don't feel it. Go to sleep. They can have a completely natural night of sleep. And once the following morning, the data, the signals get uploaded into the cloud. Our algorithms interpret the signals automatically and produce the diagnostic information that goes straight to the doctor.
Your technology uses acoustic signals, sound waves, to determine and diagnose what disease someone may have. How does that actually work?
Intuitively, it's actually very simple. So we all know that our body functions produce sounds. Now, what we do is that we extract the sounds of interest, right? Because it's not the same the sound generated by a normally working body function than the sound generated by a body function in the presence of disease. So we have created a sensor that is optimized to extract those sounds that are pathological. We extract the sounds, then we got proprietary algorithms that extract features that are disease-related. And then what we do is that we got another layer of signal processing on top that is able to extract the outputs that are of interest for the intended clinical use. We determine whether the patient have got obstructive sleep apnea or not, the severity, and also diagnostic indices which are of interest for the physician to later on decide how do we go about treating.
And this is a much bigger problem than people realize. Over 1 billion people globally suffering from some form of these diseases. How is your technology going to help that many people?
There is an unsurmountable bottleneck at the moment for diagnosis. Now, with Acurable, none of this is needed. So imagine the situation. The patient can be sent the sensor or the device at home. They just put it on, go to sleep. Following morning, the data gets uploaded. The doctor have got the diagnostic answer and the diagnostic indices. And then after that, the patient can be referred to the proper pathway for treatment.
No matter where we look, innovation is happening all around us. Let's take a closer look at some incredible technologies that are being developed. First up, we head over to Hong Kong, where scientists are proving that robots don't always come with shiny metal paneling. This robot is made from magnetic slime that researchers say could grab objects inside your body. The neodymium magnet particles allow scientists to control the slime using external magnets. Doctors hope that the robot could enter hard-to-reach places in the body to manipulate items or encapsulate harmful objects to remove them. Its creators have yet to name their invention, but as you can imagine, social media users have a few suggestions. Heading south, we take a look at Melbourne, Australia. That's where researchers have taught living brain cells in a dish to play the retro video game Pong. The cells are grown in a microelectrode interface, which sends pulses of electrical activity to stimulate the video game. These miniature brains can improve their performance more quickly than artificial intelligence. The research signals a major step forward that could lead to live neurons being integrated into traditional computing, helping machines solve complex problems and ultimately creating a synthetic brain. Lastly, we land in London for a vanishing act. Imagine a world where packaging can disappear. Thanks to Nopla, this is closer to reality than you might think. Nopla creates packaging made from seaweed that biodegrades in as little as 4 weeks. Not only does this limit the amount of single-use plastic out there, seaweed doesn't need fresh water or fertilizer, and it even contributes to deacidifying our oceans, which fights climate change. I love their transparent edible juice container and Heinz ketchup packets that looks just like a tomato, and naturally composts like one too. And that's our wrap of the top innovations from around the world. Up next, we're headed to space to learn how a telescope can look back in time.
The plant-based meat sector could be worth as much as $2.7 trillion by 2040, according to CB Insights. We have only just begun to explore new technologies in this sector. Redefine Meat uses 3D printing to create its cuts of meat which are targeted at meat eaters and not vegetarians like more products currently on the market. Esh, the alternative meat market is growing rapidly and there's a whole bunch of new entrants. How do you make Redefine Meat stand out?
We are in exciting times where a company like Redefine Meat can bring to the market new meat, not meat alternative, not plant-based meat, but meat products that deliver on the taste, flavor, functional elements, and nutrition, made using advanced technologies and not just animals. And we do it by starting from the steak. We have a product in the market now in Israel and in Europe that is the first flank steak that is in the best restaurants in the world, and they serve Redefine Meat, and they're proud of that.
How does the technology build something like a flank steak out of plants?
We studied meat to the molecular and structural level for 4 years to really understand what does the tissue of animal muscle delivers in our palate, in our pan, on the grill. Once we identify what are the core elements, we recreated those separately using plant-based ingredients, bringing everything together to a complex structure using additive manufacturing, what people refer to as 3D printing, actually creating a food product voxel by voxel, fiber by fiber, and layer by layer, until you have on the plate in restaurants in Israel the most complex made-man food product that is really similar to what a cow can do.
So I think everyone understands the environmental benefits of reducing meat consumption, but nutritional benefits are a challenge. How do you cross that chasm where people have the perception that alternative meats maybe aren't as healthy with all the different ingredients they have?
The connection between humans and meat is very close. We don't just love meat, we also need meat. And when we started to research meat, we needed to understand not only how we deliver something that is tasty, but also something that is good for your body. First, it's important to say that taking a lot of plant-based ingredients, proteins, fat, flavor that come from plants, and combine them together into a steak requires more than 2 or 3 ingredients. And we really want to have a great, tasty, juicy steak and to take care of the nutritional elements. So we need to prioritize. For example, sodium is bad for everyone. So we said sodium will have the lowest amount possible, that in every country around the world will get the best score possible. But fat, for example, meat has a lot of fat. We have less fat than meat. And the consumers that want to buy our products don't feel bad for the fact that they're eating 12% of fat. because actually in the animal equivalent, they will have double amount of fat.
The meat industry is well established, well capitalized, profitable, and a very effective lobbying force. How do you overcome some of the challenges of the giant meat industry being your primary competitor?
We decided to define ourselves and to really have a vision of becoming a meat company. And now our plan is to become the world's largest meat company. In order to achieve that, we really need to understand how does the meat industry operate. But the meat industry itself, the big meat companies, they understand that what we are working on is inevitable. And governments, consumers, and players in the meat industry know that this revolution is happening. And actually, by having a relationship with them, having a mutual respect and learning from them, we can become better in disrupting their market.
Silicon Valley startup OneSkin has come up with a skincare product that aims to reverse the aging process. Their OS01 peptide reduces your skin's biological age. To create this product, OneSkin's research methods were anything but skin deep. They trained an algorithm using 500 human skin samples to create a molecular clock which measures skin's biological age. OneSkin also uses 3D lab-grown skin to measure both molecular and structural changes, discovering what causes wrinkles and what stops them. Replacing cells damaged through the aging process and switching them out with stem cells that will produce younger skin is their mission. Simply apply to your skin and you'll be glowing in no time. The James Webb Space Telescope is the largest telescope ever launched with a mission to study every phase of cosmic history. Now, this infrared telescope will allow us to see the universe like never before. And with new data comes new questions. Dr. Eric Smith is the program scientist for the James Webb Space Telescope, and he's here to share just what kind of insights we'll gain. So, Eric, this is pretty remarkable what the team has been able to achieve. Let's start from, I guess, a very basic question. What can we learn from the information we will gain from this telescope, and how will it help what we do here on Earth?
We built the James Webb Space Telescope, or Webb, to do one thing primarily, and that was watch the universe turn the lights on. And by that, I mean see the first stars and galaxies to form after the Big Bang. Now, it's a general purpose facility, meaning people will do that, but they'll do all kinds of other investigations, like look at exoplanet atmospheres to see if they might be habitable. So it's a telescope that's going to open up the universe with a new set of eyes, an infrared set of eyes.
What specific technologies have been developed to make that possible?
For Webb, we had to develop 10 technologies, 10 inventions we had to make to even start the telescope. We had to make new detectors to record the faint infrared signals. We had to make a material for our sun shield that blocks the sunlight from hitting the telescope. We had to invent some measuring technology that's been commercialized. And so if you go get LASIK surgery for your eyes now, they may actually be using this technology to measure the surface of your eye very accurately for laser surgery. That's one thing I know it's been commercialized heavily.
How do you go about balancing the pace that technology is advancing at the same time as developing something like this? Because the team has been working on this for many, many years.
At some point, you do have to do what we call freezing the technology. You carry it up to the point where it will meet your requirements, and then you stop inventing and you just say, this is the product I need to get the science I want. And so for us, that technology freeze happened about 10 years ago.
How are you identifying what could be appropriate or inhabitable by humans?
First of all, it has to be close enough or far away enough from the stars so that it could have liquid water. It can't be too hot, it can't be too cold. And then when we try to measure the constituents of the atmosphere, what kind of chemicals are in the atmosphere? Do we see water, maybe carbon dioxide? Those would be signals of a habitable planet. Now, we can't tell if there's actually any life there, but we can say, oh, this is a place that could have life.
So I'm sure you get this question all of the time, but what's the possibility there actually is life on other planets?
Well, if you define life as self-replicating structures, self-replicating molecules, plants that self-replicate, I think we may find that it's actually not uncommon or somewhat common. Now, does that simple life evolve to intelligence? That's a harder question.
In a few years, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope will launch. How will it complement Hubble and Webb?
Well, it would be great to have all three of them working together. They're sort of like three superheroes, each with their own superpower. Webb is this enormous infrared optimized telescope. So it sees in the infrared and it's very powerful for looking deep. Nancy Grace Roman works in the visible like Hubble, but it's a survey telescope. And so each time it takes an image of something, it's 100 times bigger in the sky. Roman is excellent at finding rare things or things that change rapidly with time. And if Roman finds them, then you would bring the instruments that Hubble has and Webb have together to look at it deeply.
Well, the size itself is massive, as you've alluded to. I just wonder, just from a practical sense, how do you maintain something like this? How do you repair something like this?
In the case of Webb, we don't repair it. The instruments were designed for a long life and now will probably last for more than 20 years. What we did do, though, was near the bottom of our spacecraft, that's where you put fuel in. And we did more or less make what we call them optical targets. So if someday in the future somebody invented a robotic way to go back up there and refuel it, we built that capability into the spacecraft. Otherwise, the structure is too complicated because of some of the design trades we had to make to do any servicing, like was done on Hubble.
Coming up, cryptocurrency is making big moves to become a mainstream payment method.
Digital assets like cryptocurrency are a rapidly evolving ecosystem, which if you're not living and breathing day in, day out, it can be hard to stay on top of things, especially when the sectors this technology can disrupt is so varied. Well, based in Singapore, Amber Group is a leader in digital asset trading and infrastructure. They are actively working with a wide variety of industries, from creators looking to secure their content to governments who are preparing for the impact of cryptocurrencies. Over at Mastercard, how are you really engaging, thinking about the space?
The way we look at digital assets is it is a new space, it's a new play, but there is a need to establish a continuum between the traditional, or if you like, the legacy and the new space. So Mastercard is building the bridge between the fiat world and the crypto world. The floating currencies, definitely what we're looking at doing is to use the billions of cards that we already have to enable them to buy into crypto, but also to be able to use the cryptocurrency that is there to convert and use it at the ever-growing Mastercard merchant base.
You've been very progressive at Mastercard at forming some very unique and groundbreaking partnerships, including with Amber Group. How do you see that strategic partnership with Amber Group?
It's one of the earliest partnerships, and I'm super grateful to the Amber Group. And Annabelle and I have spoken a couple of times together on what are the possibilities. The way we think about it is infrastructure for developing crypto finance, whether you call it DeFi or you call it as additional asset line within a traditional bank. That needs a lot of infrastructure development. And what I particularly like about Amber Group is the fact that they're not just focusing on the asset element of it, but are also creating the technology stack that will definitely be a necessary prerequisite for new institutions and the old ones to transform.
Annabelle, how do you think about the tech stack that will be the foundation for a future financial system?
That's what we started building maybe 3 years ago. So when we initially started, it was still around the treating cryptocurrency as an asset class or a lot of alpha to be captured in the market. But the more we get involved in the space, the more we realize that there's a gap between the traditional financial ecosystem to how do we onboard all the users from Web 2 to Web 3.
There's been a lot of speculation about what governments should be doing and what really should be the role of government. And there's people on extremes and there's people in the middle of that discussion. What are your thoughts on that?
I think right now we've seen at least a lot of regulators paying attention to the asset class and not just regulating it, trying to fit the same regulatory framework I've seen with commodities or securities, but really thinking of it as something new. And that's something that we'd love to see. And one of the reasons that we're here in Singapore is because of that as well. And we really look forward to more jurisdictions really seeing it this way.
So are you active with government in some way?
Yes. We have probably 20 to 30 applications outstanding currently in various jurisdictions, applying for both the more traditional sort of broker-dealer license or e-money license, all the way to the crypto-native licenses to the extent that they're available. So we are very actively engaging with the regulators, and having these discussions is interesting as well to see the different stages they're at and their attitude towards what they think maybe is the future of finance or future of what they're regulating as well.
As the space evolves, I feel like your stakeholders, the bridge is narrowing, especially with this partnership. At what point do you think they'll be the same person?
So I think two things. One is, if you look at Asia in particular, which is the region that I have probably most exposure to, 3 billion people are excluded from paying in crypto because China, India, Vietnam, and Bangladesh do not allow crypto payments. Now, is that sustainable for growth is the real question. And that brings me to how regulators are probably already progressively looking at it.
So I'm really curious to learn about what you both think the killer app is going to be that actually makes this mainstream once and for all. Rama, I'll start with you.
Don't think I have the perfect answer, but I have a view. And this is my personal view. But definitely, to me, the key killer apps is when you can tokenize, whether it's private equity portfolios or real estates or capital market offerings, and broad-based ownership at a smaller ticket. That's what I like.
And what about the gamification part of this story, Annabelle? What do you think about that?
We already see a lot of adoption coming in. If you look at Philippines with the X Infinity, the play to earn game, and now I'm running every day for this app called Step In, where you run to earn, right? And it's these things that are fun and actually lead to adoption of people accepting tokens or NFTs as a form of new creator economy.
Well, to your point, Rama, the convergence is already happening right in front of our eyes. We have Mastercard and Amber both together, and Rama and Annabelle, it was a pleasure getting thought leadership from you both on where the financial system is going to take us with blockchain, digital assets, and crypto.
Well, it's nice to hear of concrete signs that crypto has what it takes to go mainstream. Well, that does it for this edition of the show. And if you come across some breakthrough technology you think we should know about, let us know online across our social media channels at Beyond Innovation TV. Make sure to join us next time. And remember, the future lies just beyond innovation.